Jordorowski filmek 12 minut. O Jesus. White Dragon Isles were cut from Vanilla WoW. Okay.
Some information about the earliest version of the game. Did you know
Ale z Vanilla WoWa to wiele rzeczy było wycięte.
the undead were originally supposed to look more human-like? In an interview with the Vanilla WoW developer, they talk about how the undead were originally planned to basically decay over time. They were supposed to start off looking human, and then slowly as they progressed through the starting zone, they would lose their flesh, culminating at the end of the starting zone where the Forsaken would look like the ones we have today. But the reason...
Ale to wydaje mi się, że to dosyć ambitny projekt jak na tamte czasy to był, że Undead najpierw zaczyna jako human, a potem stopniowo się przeradza w
they
Undeada.
abandoned this feature was because they just did not have the tech to
No,
pull it off at the
no
time.
właśnie. No
And also,
właśnie.
the undead areas were the last ones to be added to the original game.
Ale to fajnie można zobaczyć, Undeady są takie, dosłownie z kilka zdjęć w internecie alfy WoWa, jak były te inne modele i Undeady tam w ogóle nie były takie też zgarbione, tylko bardziej były takie human-like.
So they
nie?
definitely did not have time to flesh out the zone where they really like their ambitious pre-planning stages. Although it would have been a neat feature to have lore-wise, to see the undead slowly decay as you come to terms with your character's new existence.
No jako taki
And they
scenariusz
kind of pulled this off with the
no,
Worgen starting
no
zone,
dokładnie.
where you start off as a human and then slowly turn into a
Trochę z
Worgen.
Worgenami tak
Although the
zrobili.
Worgen have the ability to swap between their human form anyway, and they already have human
I
models
fajne
in the
to było.
game, so that one was a no-brainer to add to their starting zone. And also, did you know, if you leave the Worgen starting zone before you get bit by a Worgen, you just automatically learn how to turn into a Worgen once you enter combat for the first time. It
No dobra, to jest chyba...
used to be you could stay in human form forever
Tak?
if you managed
Tak
to
było?
escape. But
Aha, dobra, ja myślałem, że to jest oczywiste, myślałem, że to było od zawsze.
they fixed that up.
Czyli, że można było opuścić, pewnie Warlock tam samonował, czy coś można było opuścić jako human ten gilneański zone, jeszcze nie przemieniając się z Worgena i wtedy zostawałeś po prostu w humańskiej formie bez tego, bez swojej
After a
Worgenowości.
couple expansions.
Ciekawe. No dobra.
Located in the Death Knight starting zone are a series of skeleton NPCs known as the Scourge Sky Darkeners, whose only job is to rain
Okej, dobra, sorry, pomyliłem się, tu są rzeczy, których ja nie wiem.
arrows upon the nearby town that Death Knight are attacking.
Tak, to są strzały zrobione z saronitu i my musimy je zbierać i co więcej, to jest pierwszy moment w grze, w którym ja się zetknąłem swojego z czasu tym, serio, to było przełomowe wtedy, że jak są quest itemy na ziemi i się je podnosi, to nie ma cast time'u, tylko się je podnosi od razu, to było wtedy wow!
One of the skeletons will offer you a quest called Tonight We Dine in Havenshire,
Tak.
which has you go around the town in order to collect some of the Serenite arrows that they've been raining down, because they're only found at Northrend and they're in limited supply. Now,
Dokładnie.
this quest, as well as the NPCs, are all obvious references to the movie 300, as one of the lines of the movies is
Tonight we
Spartans,
dine
ready
in
your
hell.
breakfast and eat hearty, for tonight we dine in hell. And also, there's a scene in the movie where the Persian army
Czemu ten film był taki popularny, tak szczerze? Ja go sobie obejrzałem jakiś czas temu i
threatens the Spartans by saying they have so many soldiers on their side that their arrows will blot out the sun. To which they reply that they'll just fight in the shade then. Hence the name of the Sky Darkeners of the Bowman skeleton, which is just
że Sky Darken, okej,
further
dobra.
reinforced by the name of
Multi-spec is an Ascension feature that grants you the power to completely transform your hero with the push of a button.
Co jest
On
z tym?
Ascension, heroes
Otworzę
can create and
lodówkę
save
i
multiple
reklamy
different
Ascension.
builds that
Ile
they
wy
can
macie
swap between
kasy
whenever they
na
want to
sponsoring?
completely
Co jest?
the quest that they provide. In Alpha WoW, before they had talent trees which went live in the classic version of the game, all players had this talent point interface, which would allow you to spend your
To wygląda jak ten. No, przecież to jest dosłownie, kurde, interfejs ten, ówczesnego drzewka, znaczy drzewka w cudzysłowie, dla petów
talent points
hunterowych.
in order to increase the power level of your character. Like if you wanted to increase the damage with two-handed axes specifically,
Ale to
you
nie
could spend
pamiętam
10
tego.
talent points to increase it by 1. If you wanted some fire resistance, you could spend 10 talent points to increase it by 4.
Ale ciekawe efekty to były. Increases your chance to parry with two-handed axe.
Increasing it as you bought more of the ranks. This system is also where you would get your professions, so you'd have to choose to give up player power in order to be able to craft items and consumables.
To bardzo śmieszne, bo w zasadzie to jest coś, co zrobiło ESO lata później. Tylko, że wiadomo, w ESO jest na tyle tych skill pointów, że można sobie w pewnym momencie już na spokojnie spendować to w profesję, ale de facto są
Eventually,
zasady.
this system was scrapped, and then players were given the talent trees in beta, which stayed in the game all the way until Mist of Pandaria.
O, drzewka talentów, o!
Although this little window of purchasing specific skills wasn't entirely abandoned either, as the Hunter class had a
Hunter,
very similar window
tak.
in order to train their pets.
Tak.
Where
Użyłem dokładnie, wiem skąd on ma to zdjęcie tego, ten dokładnie screen, bo ja tego dokładnie, to jest w Google wyszukane, Hunter Pet Classic czy coś takiego, bo tego screena bodajże użyłem też jak robiłem ten przewodnik po klasach w klasiku. Jeden z moich pierwszych filmików na YouTubie.
Whereas when your pet would level up, they would gain loyalty points, which you would then use to purchase their basic attacks, cooldowns, and all of their extra stats, like granting extra
Nie
armor,
oglądałem
health,
tego.
and very specific resistances.
Tak,
So
no.
you could choose to give your pet a
Słabe to
fire
było. I też dobrze, jakby z dwojga, znaczy z tych dwóch, to wolę drzewka talentów.
resistance and have no frost resistance
I drzewka talentów u petów
at all,
całkiem
for
spoko.
example. And the original pet training panel was incredibly unintuitive and
Tak.
would show you skills that
Tak.
you couldn't actually train your active
Tak,
pet
to było
and
okropne.
didn't have a way to sort the abilities at all. So just kind of a mess that was abandoned in Wrath of the Lich King.
Tak.
So they did kind of keep the old talent point system. It was just stripped of its previous functionalities and only applied to 100 pets. Located in Area 52 during the second to last quest of the quest chain provided by Dr. Vomisa, PhD,
Okej.
is a quest known as You
Czy
Robot,
to jest ten...
which has you test drive a robot against another one named Negatron. Now, during the quest chain, you've
okay.
basically been
Tak,
helping
no.
this guy test drive his robots and gathering parts for him. So, during this final test drive of the robot, you're supposed to fight against a Fel Reaver
Czekaj, ale gdzie tu jest ten... Aha, dobra, ja myślałem, że ten filmik cały będzie o tym, dlaczego Dragon Eyes były wycięte z
who
Vanilla
is an
Lava.
obvious reference to Megatron, the big bad evil guy of the Transformers series, which is a cartoon and movie franchise
No,
about
ręce
robots that
to.
could transform into different things. During the Burning Crusade, this
Tego typu trivi questowych i nawiązań to jest nieprawdopodobnie w WoWie dużo. Co drugi quest jest jakimś
was a pretty
nawiązaniem.
difficult quest to solo and was supposed to be helped along by the robot that was provided by you, which could be accidentally dismissed if you summoned another temporary pet as part of your class. Now, the enemy bad guy Negatron also has some dialogues which are very reminiscent of his Saturday morning cartoon villain status that it's based on, where he'll say things like, "Ha ha ha, your feeble rocket is destroyed.
Okay.
I'll return later to finish off the rest of your puny
No,
town."
okay,
And he
dobra,
says
to-
this in all caps, of course. And the quest it's associated to
Czyli,
is
że
itself
krzyczy.
a reference to the short story and full-length movie I, Robot, which doesn't really have anything to do with this quest or Transformers, other than the fact that they both
Nie znam tego filmu w
have
ogóle.
robots in them. In the game files and even some of the
Chyba.
promotional materials for early vanilla WoW, there's a place known as the Dragon Isles.
Mamy
which
Dragon
was
Isles.
eventually cut from the game for a whole bunch of reasons. One of the biggest reasons that we found out, thanks to the WoW Diary book, is that the Dragon Isles didn't really make sense from a lore standpoint.
I do dziś nie.
In Warcraft lore, all of the dragons are good except for the black dragons. So they couldn't easily make a
A Infinite Dragonflight?
zone for adventurers
A czy no dobra, go tam wtedy
to go into
nie
and
wymyślili.
kill stuff because there's so few variations of bad dragons. And there were already a couple of zones with black dragons
Niebieskie przecież potem też były.
in the game as enemies already. In fact, some of the developers
Czekaj, niebieskie już nie były złe na etapie wanili przypadkiem?
asked
Znaczy złe, no. Złe.
Chris Metzen, the guy responsible for a lot of WoW's lore, to just let them make other colors of dragons' enemies. That way they could have more variation to their enemies, but he always just gave them a hard no, because that's not how his lore worked out. So every time you fight a dragon in game that's not a black dragon, there's always some special reason they're an enemy, usually due to madness or mind control or something, and rarely because of something they did of their own volition. However, another reason the Dragon Isles was cut was because they were having a hard time just
Poczekaj, ale Dragon Isles 65-70 plus raid.
designing the place. And a lot of the neat, fancy ideas they had just didn't flow very well with character models they were actually trying to put in them to
Nie
text.
wiem, czy to będzie w tym filmiku. Chyba nie. Ale w tej samej wanili oni chcieli dać przecież Outlandy. Był Hellfire Peninsula było całe zrobione na asetach z Barenców.
And lastly, they found out they didn't actually need very many zones or dungeons. You see, what happened was they had planned for the Dragon Isles as well as the zones of Grim Batol, Tol Barad, and Karazhan to be in Vanilla WoW. And one of the things Vanilla WoW did that no other game did at the time was trying to navigate players through a zone by giving them breadcrumb quests that they could send them places.
Ale trochę... ale
And during the
zabili
Friends
ich.
and Family Alpha, players really loved the quest and wanted more of them. So they added extra quests to have players do more things inside the zones, rather than just send them to far reaches of the zone to explore and grind mindlessly. And as quoted by the WoW Diary book, the only way to keep players in an appropriate zone was by adding far more quests than originally planned. By creating so many quests, WoW had accidentally created compelling solo content. which arguably became the game's strongest ingredient for success with the broad market of casual players.
No, ale to jest... To jest ciekawe o tyle, że jednocześnie ta vanilla jest bardzo wybrakowana, jak chodzi o questy, tylko ale to jest ciekawe, bo nawet można powiedzieć niedokończona była, bo w naszym takim dzisiejszym rozumieniu, wtedy to jeszcze nie było takie oczywiste, nie? Wtedy to się właśnie wykreowało wraz z WoWem, nie? Ale w naszym dzisiejszym rozumieniu to jest oczywiste, że questów w grze musi być na tyle, żeby osiągnąć max level, nie? Ale wtedy to nie było takie oczywiste. W tamtych czasach w sumie w ogóle questowanie jako forma levelowania wcale nie była taka... Questy często były rzadkością w grach w sumie, nie? Tylko jakby raz na jakiś czas się zdarzały, ale tak tu generalnie sobie grindujesz, zabijasz mobki i tam coś tam sobie robisz, nie? To jest ciekawe.
Providing that much enjoyable solo content was never planned, budgeted, or even prioritized. It was stumbled upon. By trying to solve a navigation problem, we'd inadvertently engaged a larger audience, namely the solo player.
Okej, to jest turbo ciekawe. To jest turbo... Okej, dobra, to ja chyba o tym nie wiem. Wow, okej. Czyli, jeśli dobrze to rozumiem, oni nie planowali tego, tylko to wyszło z tego tytułu, że po prostu robili questy, które przenosiły, jakby nawigowały gracza z zone'u do zone, żeby iść eksplorować dalej, żeby te questy jakoś prowadziły do tych innych krain, ale zaczęto je robić w pewnym momencie tyle, ale ty kurde, to też by tłumaczyło, dlaczego w Vanilli jest tyle questów, które cię wysyłają po prostu na 5 stron kontynentu, że masz iść tu, potem tu, tak jakby latać stąd, i tak mówiąc szczerze, są ekspowo patrząc, są totalnie bez sensu do robienia. Ale to ciekawe. To bardzo ciekawe.
So, because of the game
I też jakby zgadzam się z tym bardzo, że to bardzo na pewno miało wpływ na sukces WoWa, nie? Bo chciałbym przypomnieć w ogóle z tego miejsca, sukces WoWa wynika w dużej mierze właśnie z tego, w sensie w tamtych czasach, że jako tak naprawdę pierwsze MMO zdecydowanie bardziej się przychylało do casuali, nie? I jakby adresowało ich jakby takie właśnie bardziej potrzeby, a nie tylko jakby hardkorowego gracza, co po prostu napierdziela 24/7 i po prostu traci gear i exp z każdą śmiercią i tak dalej.
game design created more quests to do in a zone, they didn't actually need to create as many zones as they thought they would. So they cut a couple of their planned zones so they could save them for later. With Dragon Isles being the only one from that list that has still yet to make it to the game. And just for some context on how many quests Vanilla WoW had compared to its competitors.
Ale te Dragon Knights są takie strasznie... Bo ludzie do dziś... Ja mam wrażenie, że to jest jedna z tych rzeczy, o które ludzie do dziś raz na jakiś czas tam się odpalają, że czemu tego nie ma, czemu tego nie dodali, cały dodatek tam, zróbcie coś tam. Ale po co? Jakby tak szczerze, jakby to jest taki... Zone, który jest totalnie tak naprawdę z tyłka wyciągnięty. No nie czarujmy się, no tak jest. I po co on ma? I ludzie chyba go chcą tylko dlatego, że kiedyś usłyszeli o tym, żeby miał być. Tak mi się wydaje. Jakby... Ciekaw jestem, czy coś kiedyś pojawi. Co by tam w ogóle miało być, tak szczerze, nie? To był taki ewidentnie zone zrobiony z taką, zrobiony konceptualnie, z taką myślą typowo generyczne fantazy, nie? Robimy świat fantazy, no to muszą być smoki, i tam będzie takie, i tam będą latać, i tam skarby będą, tam coś tam.
Single zone in World of Warcraft had more quests than the entire game of EverQuest.
A single... O, no to jest to, o czym ja mówiłem właśnie w sumie. Tak, no, dokładnie. Pojedynczy zone w WoWie ma więcej questów niż cały EverQuest. Śmieszne, że EverQuest się nazywa EverQuest. Świetne, ale świetne, dobre. No ale tak było właśnie, nie? EverQuest to było właśnie takie, to był taki WoW tamtych czasów, zanim WoW wyszedł, nie? I tam faktycznie tak było, tam się głównie grindowało na mobach, nie? I jakby quest to było takie wow, nie? To był taki wyjątek od reguły, nie?
WoW has had many battlegrounds over the years. However, did you know there are 3
Rajdzik jakiś dostałem? A to ja nie zobaczyłem nawet.
unused battlegrounds almost fully completed in the files? First off, we have Azshara's Crater, a battleground I'm sure some of you know of.
Ale to jeżeli jest, to witam. Ale to czemu mi się to nie wyświetla? Może to wyłączyłem przypadkiem, no, przepraszam.
Was originally planned
Czekaj,
for
to
Vanilla
muszę
WoW.
przyjąć, bo się trochę nie skupiłem.
WoW has had many battlegrounds over the years.
Tak,
However, did you know there are 3 unused battlegrounds almost fully completed in the files? First off, we have Azshara's Crater.
Tak,
A
słyszałem
battleground
o
I'm
tym
sure
kiedyś.
some of you know of was originally planned for Vanilla WoW, and it was even given a location in Azshara, a large crater made into the map.
Tak.
with roads even put for Alliance and Horde to get there. But there was nothing ever done with this place. Also, sadly, as this map was removed, so we can't view it anymore, and its final complete state is not even visible in the map files, so we'll be using some footage from Haven Games for this section. The first real version of this map appeared
O, Haven Games. Kurde, tak lubiłem ten kanał. To był tak zajebisty kanał. O, ale smutna historia.
in 0.9 beta for WoW Vanilla, and appears to have some massive crater set in Ajara, with a Night Elf village and Orc town set within. On top of that, a couple of ruins
Co się stało? Cześć, nie, ja nie pomyliłem tego. Nie, to jest on. On na nowotwór chyba zmarł. W jakimś takim bardzo młodym wieku. W ogóle, no, przykra historia strasznie.
and that's
To jest ten, co miał tego paladyna z tym tier 2 hełmem takim, nie? To jest on. Tak, to było on.
about it. It was super basic, but quite large. Then comes
Overbearing,
0.10,
okay.
the map is completely changed, this version being 3 craters connected by gates between the cliff sides, with assumed a Horde camp in the bottom left and Alliance camp in the north. This version is much more complete, although even then, the next update to the zone would come in patch 1.0. The Alliance camp would be massively reverted, becoming far more basic oddly enough, which would be followed up by the final version, a complete version that's map file
Ale
has
kurde, to tutaj też to było takie robione Alterac Valley coś, nie?
been all too hard to
Widać takie
acquire,
duże.
giving a full scale to the area, but has yet to be used. This zone
I
Is
reklama.
our president a child murderer? New allegations.
I would really love to see these orgy parties that Vice President Estaba is
is so complete, people have even been able to make a fan-made map of the area. The battleground is assumed to have worked in the same vein as Alterac Valley, with resources and capture points
No
pushed
no.
into your enemy's land and securing structures,
Też tak
although with
pomyślałem
only
właśnie.
one faction camp each.
Czekajcie, Talerendis. Talerendis Outpost. Jest takie miejsce w WoWie, Talerendis Outpost. Gdzie to jest? To jest gdzieś w Kalimdorze też, tam właśnie w tamtych okolicach. Czy to nie jest ten flight point tam w ogóle w Ażarze? Dla aluchów? Znaczy nie tylko aluchów, ale tam na początku? Niedaleko Ashenvale? Talerendis Point. Na 100%. Na 100% to jest gdzieś w WoWie. Ton ma Stronghold, to nie. Ale patrzcie, Timbermow Cover. No tak, bo bo to na środku Ażary faktycznie to miało być. I to wyszło do tego Timbermow chyba, wiecie, tej sieci jaskiń z Timbermow. Kurde.
It seems this may have been a bigger focus on capturing neutral objectives and gathering resources to use to defeat your enemy, instead of them simply
Ale to chyba było w ogóle zupełnie jeszcze, gdzie zupełnie inaczej myśleli o Battlegroundach. Oni chyba myśleli wtedy, że Battlegroundy to będzie taki coś w stylu Wintergrasp chyba bardziej. Że to będzie takie open worldowe bardziej. Że to nie będzie takie instancjonowane, no bo patrzcie, Alterac Valley w końcu się ukazało, ale w grze nie znajdziemy Alterac Valley w Alterac Mountains, nie? Tam nie ma jakby tego typu, tej doliny tam w ogóle nie ma, nie? A tutaj miała być na mapie normalnie, więc wydaje mi się, że to też było z tym jakby myślane.
being buffs that you need to take out
Kurde, ale oni byli ambitni wtedy.
so you can defeat their enemy boss.
O, nadal są.
This battleground is fully
Awesome.
set up aesthetic-wise, so all the groundwork is done for Blizzard to finally give us this BG. Although I guess the visuals are a bit outdated now. Next, we have Defend of the Ale House, and this time map files that are actually still in game. So this BG was added in patch 5.4.7, meaning at the end of Mista Bandaria, and just sat untouched since. This map has a Horde and Alliance side, and the Horde a more autumn appearance and the Alliance a more
To z kolei wygląda mi jak ten Battleground Pandoriowy. Jezus, jak to się nazywało? Zawsze zapomniałem, jak to się nazywa. Co, tam kiedyś były te kurde wozy zamiast flag. Jak to się nazywało? Deepwind Gorge? Tak, Deepwind Gorge.
Spring. This map very much has a MOBA-like appearance, and may have been planned to be
MOBA-like.
exactly that, as the name Defense of the Ale House is a reference to the original MOBA Defense of the Ancients, and shares a lot of similarities. First off, with multiple lanes where NPCs would path
Mieliśmy mieć mobę w WoWie, słyszycie?
down to fight each other,
W Pandarii.
with players supporting them, while there is multiple side objectives, a Jade Tiger Shrine and Shaw-infested Outcrop on the east, and a ruined Tree Husk and Mogu encampment to the west. This BG really does look well made, and with its somewhat up-to-date appearance, could
Znaczy, strasznie dziwna jest ta kolorystyka. Ale to może jest kwestia braku
be added
oświetlenia.
if Blizzard
że-
figures out how to make a MOBA work in WoW. And our last of the three is simply called Warcraft Heroes. Added to the game files with the launch of Warlords of Draenor, this map very much also gives off the appearance of a MOBA. Seems at the end of MOB, Blizzard really wanted to try making a WoW MOBA battleground, as with how close these are together, I assume both were in the works at the same time. especially as these two BGs came out around the same time as Heroes of the Storm, which was a MOBA game that Blizzard had developed themselves. Maybe some practice for them, maybe a planned crossover, we may never know. But enough about all that.
Ciekawe.
This zone has a very obvious Horde half and Alliance half. The zone is overall rather
Jak każdy Battlefield.
basic, with overall rather little work done, especially with the pathing and seemingly NPCs placed and planned,
Ale fajne
replaced
góry.
by placeholders.
Te góry wyglądają przecież jak w tym, jak Zeref Mortis.
Ogres, and with this, there seems to be camps of mobs near the edge, much like you would see in the MOBA's jungle, even including a
Dziwna kolorystyka, nie no właśnie tam było powiedziane, że jest dokończone.
boss ogre. So there is many things we can gather from this, and this very well could have simply been an extremely early concept of Ashran, as it does fit into the same style, but most likely this was another attempt at making a WoW MOBA battleground.
Ej, ale wiecie co? Może to jest w ogóle ojciec Ashranu? Bo ten ogr mi tak dał do myślenia. Ten ogr jest tak na środku, nie? Pomiędzy bazami. To jest dokładnie tak, jak wygląda Ashran. Tu jest Storm Spear, czy tam Storm Shield, tak? Tu jest War Spear. I tutaj jak był Ashran, to właśnie tutaj też jest ten ogr boss taki. Kurde.
And seemingly NPCs placed and
No.
planned, replaced by
No,
placeholders.
still.
As it jungle enemies, the fact that multiple lanes, and even there being jungle enemies, even harking back somewhat to Warcraft 3. There is one more unused battleground called Kaladar, but I've already covered that one in depth in a different video. Long story short, it's a MOBA-looking BG based on Teldrassil added in vanilla. All three of these maps are really well done, and it's a shame that at least for Ajar's Crater and Defense of the Yell House, they are pretty much entirely complete, but simply missing the mechanics required to play them. It would be nice to see them
ale to jest
finally
cała
released in the
tajemnica.
game, although I'm sure Ajar's Crater would have to come in some time walking event or a Classic Plus. But let's hope these broken BGs get their time to shine. Maybe even in some kind of Warfront return, as the best way to make a WoW MOBA in the BG may be to amalgamize the Warfront system.
No tylko, że być może jest dobry powód, dla którego oni tego nie zrobili, bo to jest w sumie... To już były czasy, gdzie im się bardzo zarzucało tego typu rzeczy, nie? Że chcieli tam z gry zrobić mobę, czy tam jakieś tam inne, jakieś takie rzeczy, więc... To myślę, że samo zrobienie tego, choćby to wyszło fajnie, byłoby źle postrzegane. Tak mi się wydaje. Więc... Ale to przyznaję, były tutaj naprawdę rzeczy. Były rzeczy, których nie wiedziałem. Naprawdę były tutaj rzeczy, których kurczę nie wiedziałem.